So my goal is really almost like for people to be able to piece together your journey of hiring people. So when we think about the first part of the hiring journey, it's first about like figuring out who are we hiring and where are we going to find those people. So of course, there's a lot of topics in there, but one topic that I think people are really curious in relates to job descriptions. And we already hit titles a little bit at the beginning, but in terms of job descriptions, my question for you, and then we can see where it goes, is, there's a list of requirements and wish list and everything else on this job description. How much of that, and I guess speaking about Facebook and maybe then in general, how much of what we see on a job description is, set in stone, you must match everything, versus here are some possible things we would like to see in a candidate, and, we'll see who we get. Because the real question is, so many people don't apply to roles or feel like they cannot apply to roles because they don't have the minimum of 3 years experience, or they don't know Figma or something like that. So what's your take on job descriptions?
Yeah, I have a tremendous amount of thoughts about this. And you said my favorite word, which is wish list. And that's really what I think many job descriptions are.
Okay.
Speaking broadly, not every job description is written by the person who's hiring for that job. And I think that that's one big thing to keep in mind, is that at many companies, there's a HR person or a recruiter that's actually helping the hiring manager, and they might be the ones drafting the job descriptions, or they might be going off of templates for when the last time they hired a designer, they kind of pull that Word document out, dust it off, and then post it again. Particularly when you look at tools. So like, do you need to know Figma? My perspective on tools is that it is very, very easy for me to teach a new hire any tool, especially in this day and age where we have a wealth of information on YouTube or Skillshare, you name it. If I need to get someone ramped up on a tool, it's really not a big deal for me.
Right.
I think if the right person applies for the role and we interview them and say they don't know, maybe more specialized software, if they really are the right fit, then that's a really low cost to, during their onboarding period, have them watch some training videos and learn a new tool. For larger companies, the process is a little bit different because, we're hiring thousands of designers every year, which is kind of mind-boggling to think about.
I was just going to say, it's like, it's so wild to think of like a stadium full of people getting hired.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of people. I mean, we have offices all around the world, and we have a lot of different teams to work on. And so our process is a little bit different in that we post one job position for just product designer or maybe art director or UI designer. And it's kind of called a pipeline hiring, so that we bring in people through one job listing. We interview them to say, do you meet the qualifications to be a product designer at this company? And then after that, we find them a good fit for a team. And the fit for a team might depend on kind of your sub skills as a designer. So are you really, really good at like information design or systems design? Are you an amazing prototyper, or, can design illustrations on top of product? That might depend, or that might help us inform where you land in the company. And of course, we're like asking the candidates what they get excited about doing. So for me, I'm actually not super interested in designing consumer products. I'm really interested in business facing products. So when I came into Facebook, I was given a few options, and I chose enterprise because the B2B space is actually interesting to me. And then my work on privacy and ethics is actually more of like a business operations role within the company. Whereas if you're really passionate about, visual design and being an artist, maybe working on Instagram and designing stickers or AR effects, things like that might be a little bit more appropriate. I would be very bad at that. So I did not land in that space.
Right.
So the bigger companies, I actually think are a bit easier to, I shouldn't say easier. they're different because you're not really competing against other people for one job. You're kind of trying to demonstrate that you can meet a certain bar, rather than other companies might only have one design role open, and then you're kind of in competition with every other candidate that is applying, which is a really tough spot to be in, I think. So those smaller companies, when they write job descriptions, they're trying to kind of put everything in there just to see what does our dream candidate look like. But if you don't have all of those things, then it's usually not a big deal breaker. Another thing that I wanted to mention is, you mentioned, what if I don't have 3 years experience, or degrees are a really big thing. Because one of the schools I teach at is a 1-year certificate program. It's not a degree program. A lot of my students are really frustrated because most things say, oh, you need a 4-year degree. And my advice is apply anyway, because the worst thing that will happen is that they just don't get back to you. And that's really not all that bad. And the best outcome is that they call you in for an interview. Right. So why not just apply? It's really, if I get submissions and the person doesn't quite have the right qualifications, I'm not really judging them or thinking ill of them. I just kind of move on if they're not a right fit. And so, take that chance. You honestly never know what will happen if you try.
Right. I mean, I think I love that you also mentioned wish lists, and I think it's a matter of looking at, as the candidate, looking at the job description and at a high level, like, just be honest with yourself. And is your gut reaction, I align with, I'm making this up, but like 80% of this, versus 10%, okay, maybe you don't apply. But if you can honestly say, like, this kind of sounds like me, or your colleagues or friends might say, this sounds like you, okay, apply, because it also gives you an opportunity to do a little bit of rogue usability testing on your resume, your portfolio, if you get interviews and things like that. So I agree. Apply anyway. Worst that happens is you don't hear back,